All right, let's get you going on your project one. We will go to work on first your startup. Many of you, most of you have, maybe all of you have sent me what you plan to do for your project. Some of us have kind of gone back and forth a little bit. And again, I emphasize I keep it simple. Okay, even if you pick something that was a little bit more than what I might call simple, try to break it down to its simplest form. And after we're done with this, if you want to, many of you expressed that because you're talking about a real business or something that you're interested in. I think it's pretty easy to expand upon it once you figure this out and you know where the numbers are supposed to go, where they come from, etc., etc. Okay, and so I wanted you to keep it simple here. Let's work through it, get it done. You can expand on it. Many of you will end up, if you're taking the small business management minor, or if you just want to for the heck of it, you can take entrepreneurship, in which case we do take this project and we look to expand upon it dramatically. So just to give you some ideas. So anyhow, here we are, project one, our startup expenses. Let's take a look at those first, and we'll bring it up, and hopefully it'll open. Give it a minute or two. If I had the webcam thing hooked up here, then I could look at you guys at least and make funny faces or do something while I'm waiting for my computer to actually do something. And it's just sitting there, little deals going in circles, and quit going in circles, but it hasn't brought up my Excel spreadsheet. There it says open. Now we'll keep our fingers crossed that it will actually do that. These are templates that the Service Corps of Retired Executives, the old SCORE, right, had I think put together, and I found them on where'd I find them? Microsoft, or maybe the Small Business Management website. But there may be other templates out there, and I'm not opposed to you using other templates if you've had some experience with some others in the past or something. These are pretty good. They're relatively basic. They're not terribly complicated, and that's kind of why I like them. And for what we're doing, for our purposes here, basic and uncomplicated are good things. So feel free to use them. I'm going to click on this one and start opening it up, because then maybe they'll both be open when I finally get to that point. Of course, then that's going to make my first one maybe be even slower to open. So dang, if I knew any really good jokes, I'd start to tell some. I sort of one, a guy emailed me that maybe I can't tell that. Okay. Well, it says Excel. Oh, look at that. Of course, it brought up. There they are. Maybe they're both up here. Let's keep our fingers crossed. There we go. Yay. Okay, you might have to click Enable Editing up there first. Okay, we did that. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's make it a lot bigger so you can kind of see, okay, maybe what we're working on here. This is startup expenses, and I don't like the term actually startup expenses, but that's what it was labeled as. And so hang on a second. Sorry, I had a pause. I had a wonderful meeting to go to. Boy, do I love meetings, let me tell you. I think I was saying I don't really like the startup expense name. I like sources and uses, because expense implies that it's an expense, something that you write a check for and it goes away, whereas most of this is stuff that you're investing in, right? We're buying stuff that's going to start up our business, and so that's a use, right? So I kind of like that. And this tells you, and this is the important thing, please listen. I don't know how often people get this backwards for whatever reason, or they do it in the wrong order. Okay, scroll down until you see the part that says startup expenses. That's 27, road 27. Don't do anything above that, okay, yet. Don't do anything above that yet. So let's do startup expenses. Okay. Now I'm just gonna do an imaginary. I think last time I did a snow removal business. This time we'll do lawn mowing because I don't think anybody's chosen a lawn mowing business. So if you've chosen a lawn mowing business, you're gonna have to do different numbers or something, or change it. Okay. So what am I gonna need for my lawn mowing business? Am I gonna buy some real estate? Yeah, probably not. I'm not gonna build. I'm not gonna remodel. So I may not need any real estate. Let's just go with that. Leasehold improvements. Well, I'm not even gonna need a location, right? Because I'm just gonna have a pickup and a trailer and my lawnmower or mowers and some of the other assorted tools, weed whacker, etc., right? So I don't need any of that either. Okay. I am going to need some of this, maybe some equipment and machinery. What would be the difference between equipment and machinery? I don't know. I suppose one's stationary and one's not, and I don't know which is which necessarily. But I think I'm going to go with mine is equipment. Okay, so I'm gonna say that I need. This thing will work here. I need a I need a lawnmower, some weed whackers. I'm just going to do a small little deal. I'm going to need a little trailer to put my lawnmower on so I can pull it behind my old Chevy Love or something, right? So over here I don't have to, but I could put over here, lawn mower. And maybe this will work, and then again maybe it won't. Trailer, assorted hand tools, things like my weed whacker, clippers. I might need a hedge trimmer because I might do a little of that too and stuff. But okay, I'm guessing that I could get all of that for about $1,500. Now, how precise do you need to be in this exercise and for business finance here? I'm not terribly concerned that you go out and do a ton of research on this, right? Okay, if you want to, fine. But I'm not terribly concerned that we do a ton of research. Again, I'm going to be more interested in how the numbers fit on the various templates versus getting absolute numbers. If we take entrepreneurship, then we're going to get far more detail. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to change this to my vehicle. Okay, and I'm going to buy an old used pickup. Whatever it's going to be, I'm going to spend $3,000 on it. Okay, so there you go. I've got equipment, vehicle, furniture, fixtures, rental. I shouldn't need any, at least up front. I could see as my business went along, I might have to go down and get some rental stuff possibly. Utility deposit. Some of you will have a utility deposit. Okay, if you have a location, you may well have to put down a utility deposit to get the utilities hooked up. Okay. That's a very real possibility. Whether you're going to rent your location or whether you're going to buy your location, you're going to have to probably you're going to have to put down some kind of a deposit. Legal and accounting fees. Yeah, you might want to set up an LLC or something like that. Okay, or a limited partnership or something. Right, to try to defer the liability. Or limit your liability, I should say, and that's going to have a bit of a cost to it. And it's just a startup; it might not be too bad, but even a cheap LLC is probably going to cost you that, right? Okay, I'm going to need some insurance, and my insurance guy said it's going to be $600. I'm just picking a good round number. Okay. There we go. Okay, I don't have any inventory, right? A lot of you have picked businesses where you might have some business or you might have some inventory, and that inventory might be in different categories, right? If you're a coffee shop, you're gonna have coffee and biscotti and donuts and you know, chocolate covered donuts, maple covered donuts, all the good stuff, right? You might even have bagels or something there. As long as you got good cream cheese to put on them, that's okay. Okay. But I don't have any inventory. Okay. So then we'd come down and we'd say advertising. This is just the stuff that I'm going to spend before I open. I don't want anything on here that's my, you know, that's my monthly, going to be my monthly bill, like if I put an ad in the paper every month or something. Okay, I don't want that on here. I just want my startup stuff here, right? And so for my advertising, you know, I might put a sign on the side of my pickup. I probably will ahead of time. And you know, I might pay for a little advertising on pre-open, so I'm going to say $250. Oops, but that's there. That my signage is going to be $100 for the magnetic signs, you know, that go on the side of the pickup. Maybe $150 for advertising ahead of time. I'm probably going to get some flyers, those kinds of things made, maybe $100. Okay. Again, you guys can be, you know, as simple as this, and you know, don't worry about looking up the numbers and whatnot at this point in time. Okay. Other expenses. Some of you might have some other expenses. You know what those might be. I can't imagine. I'd have to, you know, I'd have to look at your particular type of business and see what it possibly is. Okay. Reserve for contingencies. Put a 0 in there. Okay. If I get any of yours without a 0 in there, I'm going to give it back to you. There's no such thing as reserve for contingencies in our class, because reserve for contingencies is the exact same as working capital. Okay. We all need to have some working capital. The SBA would require that if you went for an SBA guaranteed loan. Okay. They used to say you needed about 6 months worth of operating expenses on hand for your working capital, and I don't know what that's going to be. Okay, and my business here is really small, and my operating expenses are going to be pretty small, and so I'm just going to make a guess here, maybe a couple $100 a month for 6 months, so maybe $1,200. Okay, if I went and after I do my income statement here in a week or so, if that number's way different, you know, if I get to my operating expenses and it looks like it's going to be way higher or way lower, then I could come back and change that, right? As long as I do things correctly. Okay, now look at that. Okay. I've got some totals that total up right down here in this summary, and that's nice. I got $4,500 in equipment, you know, location and admin kind of startup expenses, my advertising, got a little working capital. So my total startup expenses are $7,650. Cool. Guess what I need for my sources of capital? I need $7,650. Not a penny more, not a penny less. I need $7,650 for my total sources of funds. And that's going to come probably from two places for all of you and for mine. Okay, so I'm going to put some money into it myself, and I'm going to borrow some money. And I want you all to have some borrowing, okay, because I want you to go through this process of having a loan amortization and those types of things, okay. So let's go ahead and what could I borrow for? Well, when I look at my statement, you know, probably could borrow for the vehicle, and I could probably borrow for the equipment. I'd probably have to have 20% down. Okay, so $900, so I'd probably be able to borrow $3,600, and really that's probably all I'm going to be able to borrow for. So I'm going to have to come up. So I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to borrow $3,600, and I'm going to have to come up with the other, which would be $4,050. Is that right? Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to come up with $4,050 investment on my own. Okay, keep it that simple, please. Okay, there, I've got $4,050 that I'm putting into it myself, $3,600 that I'm going to borrow. And so I come down here, and this is an absolute. This is the first thing I'll glance at, and I'll ship it right back to you as soon as I get it. If it doesn't balance, right, my sources of funds equals my uses of funds or my expenses, okay? And it's just so simple. As long as you do all your expenses first and you got this nice total down here, okay, boom, then you just make this total up here be the perfect match to this, right? Okay, please do that. Okay, one little thing, okay, I was just glancing at that because I thought it might be an error that I probably ought to fix, but we're on your opening inventory. If you have inventory, this isn't carrying down here, so you would need to put in this is equal to whatever the total inventory is there. Okay, and I might try to fix that and get a new template on there. I'll just have to see if I can do that. Now I don't have any inventory, so it didn't change anything, but there are now the equations in there. Okay, I'm done with my startup expenses. Yay, 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 oh lucky day, right? Okay, okay, so let's go to my opening day balance sheet. And we'll try to make this one relatively quick too. I got to click Enable Editing. Now the first thing that you need to do when you open up that after you've enabled your editing, okay, is to combine these sheets together. Okay, because I want you ultimately you're going to have one workbook. Okay, and so simply come down here and right click down here on this tab on the bottom, and where it says Move or Copy, left click on that. Come up here and move it to, oh, new book. Well, that's wrong. What happened there? I should have one that says startup expenses, and it's not showing up. I wonder if it's because I haven't saved this yet. So I'm going to save this. I might have to do that first. Okay? And this is a really slow process with my doggone deal, but I'll get here. Let's see, financial. Okay, let's go to, sorry, taking a while here, but gotta create a new folder for spring of 2015. And we'll save it there. Okay. Now let's see if I can get these combined. Okay, so right click on my opening balance sheet, hit Move or Copy, come up here, and it's still not doing it. Wow. I'm going to hit pause because I got something that's not happening that should happen. So, okay, I apologize for the pausing, but what I had to do actually, in case you guys come across the same problem, is save it and close it and reopen it then from the saved location. So you guys might, if you have a similar problem, I guess give that a try. So now I right click on this, it says Move or Copy. And then you can see when I hit this down arrow here, my startup expenses and sources. Okay. I don't need to create a copy. I'm going to move it to the end, and I click OK. Okay. Now I can actually close out this other opening day balance sheet because I don't need it now. I moved to the one tab anyhow. And now you can see I've got both of them down here. Okay, this is a huge key as we go along. You'll end up adding all of your worksheets to this workbook. Okay, and you'll do that as you go along, and because we're going to link so many of our cells together, that becomes extremely important. Okay, so make sure you do that each time when you open these up. And so you could come up here and we could add the company name. I'm not sure I'm going to worry about that. Call it XYZ Mowing or whatever. But now we got to see here on our balance sheet, what are we going to do? Yeah, the first thing we need to do is start at the top, and again my computer's just acting really slow. So we go to cash in bank, and where do I get my cash in bank from? Well, okay, I've gone from my startup sources and uses, or my startup expenses, to now my opening day balance sheet. So what comes over, and what's the cash that I'm going to have in bank? Well, I tell you, it's going to be equal to, okay, it's going to be equal to my working capital that I have down here on my, okay, Okay, on my startup expenses. So I click on equals sign in the opening day balance sheet, and then I come over here, I click on this, and I hit my enter key, and it puts that in there. Again, all I had to do was hit my equal sign, and then I come down here, I go to my startup expenses, and I left click on that, just a normal click, and hit enter, and it puts my cash there. If I had inventory, I'd do the same thing here. I didn't have any inventory. Did I have any prepaid expenses? The answer to that is yeah, I did. Okay. And what those prepaid expenses were in my case was actually my insurance, my prepaid insurance, right? It's even called prepaid insurance. Okay. And so I had an equal sign over there, and now I'm just going to hit my click there, click that, and hit my enter. So I've got that entered in there. Now, that's it. You know, that's all I had, I think, for up here in my current assets were those two things, because I didn't have any inventory. I didn't have any other. If I had a deposit for a rental or a utility deposit, that would come up here too, okay, because that would be a current asset, and we'd put that up here as another. Okay. Now, fixed assets, I had some machinery and equipment, didn't I? So I'll hit equal sign there, and I'll come over. Okay, and you know, in my case, they're just added together, and it's these, and so I can go ahead and I can hit this total. If you've got some differences here, you know, you might have some furniture and fixtures, and you'd have to pick the separate item. Okay, choose the separate item as it may be, but since I can do that, I can do a total. Okay, leasehold improvements, real estate, buildings. Boy, what else am I missing? I'm missing something else that I had over here. Oh, my legal and accounting fees. Well, what happened there? Well, I wrote a check for those, didn't I? But then it kind of went away. I do have my sign, okay, because that's still going to be on my deal. But, you know, this is advertising that I paid for. That was for an ad in the newspaper ahead of time. And this was for, you know, some flyers and stuff that don't really have any value. But I do have my sign. I'm going to put my sign over here too on my opening day balance sheet someplace. I might have to come down here and actually put that in there. Okay. And again, I'm going to link it. Okay. I'm going to remind you often, link these. Okay. Because then if I want to make a change and I go back to my source document, it didn't work for me, I don't think. Hang on. If I want to make a change, I can go back to my source document, in this case my startup expenses, and make that change, and it will update then to all my other documents, and that just becomes a key. Okay, well, equals, okay, and my sign right there. Okay. So there we go. My total assets are $6,400, but over here, you know, everything I had was $7,650. Well, what's the difference? The difference is these things. I spent $1,000 on legal and accounting fees. They just don't exist anymore, right? Because that's money that I spent that really has no value. I mean, it'd be nice to say that the setup for my LLC has some value, but it doesn't really. It doesn't to anybody. Okay, other than the lawyer, I guess now. And same thing down here with the ad that I spent some money on and the printing. So that's $1,250 that kind of went away, I guess. And so $7,650, that would be that total, right? And so I know that this is a good number. Okay, and that's kind of what I'll look at when I look at your deal, right? If this number were bigger than my startup expenses, I'm wrong. Okay, so this is probably either going to be the same or smaller, and the difference will be those things that you spent some money on that go away. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but that's the one we're going to use. Okay, now I have a bank loan payable, right? And that's equal to my loan that I said that I was going to have up here, and I might have more than one loan. That's possible. In my case, I just have this one. So I'm going to click on my total. If I had a couple in there, I could click on the total. I'll click on that, hit my enter. Okay, boom. And my owner's equity, I put more money into it than that, right? I put $4,000 into it, but I'm out some. because of those expenses that kind of went away. And so my owner's equity is $2,800. Now there's one more thing that I need to do, and that has to do with this. It has to do with my loan. Okay, and this is a case where I do have to go back and I have to open up my loan amortization. And let's hope I can get this thing to work in a reasonable time frame. I might pause for a minute and let that thing build. We'll see. Okay, so I've opened up the loan amortization. Again, the first thing you need to do, and I already did it, was I clicked enable editing. And then the next thing, come down and let's move it. In this case, it let me. So I'm going to move it also to my startup expenses and sources, and I'll click move it to the end, and I'll click OK. Again, now I've got one workbook with 1, 2, 3 worksheets on it. Okay, now my loan amount, well, I'm going to do this and go back to my startup and click on this. Now you could have 2 or 3 loan amortizations if you have more than one loan. Okay, if you're keeping this simple, you probably just have the one loan, but if you have a couple, that's very possible. My annual interest rate, well, my lender's not so nice, so he's probably going to charge me 9%. You don't have to enter that in the form of a decimal. You can just put 9 and it converts it to a decimal. Okay, I'm going to be relatively short term because because old pickup and equipment like that, it doesn't last very long, so we'll just hit 3 years and we'll go there. Number of payments per year, I'll have to make one a month, right? And the start date of my loan, let's see, is going to be about May 1. So 05-01-2015. I'm not going to make any extra payments. Click that and boom, it fills everything in for me. What a great deal. I could put my lender's name in there. It's Acme Bank. There you go, for those of you that used to watch old Roadrunner. Okay, so what do I need to do back here in my opening day balance sheet? I'm balanced, okay? My total liabilities and net worth are $6,400. My total assets are $6,400. Okay, what I'm going to do, and it's not going to change those totals, but what I want to do is show my, investors or whomever, or my business finance teacher, that a certain portion of this debt is actually due in the first year, because it is. Okay, I'm going to have to make 12 payments that first year, and the principal portion of those payments, only the principal portion of those payments, I need to put up here, okay, for that which is due in that first year. Okay, now how do I do that? Well, it's relatively simple. I can come here, come up to this auto sum thing, and just hit sum. Okay, it wants to get those cells, but I don't want to do those cells. I'm going to come over here and left click on my loan amortization. Remember I said it's just the principal portion. Okay, there's payment 1, principal, so it's just this column here. And I click and hold, and now I can drag it down. Not only that, it counts it for me. You see that little square? It says 2R times 1C. Now it's 3R, 4R. It's counting, and I need 12, right? Because it's my first year. So I'll just come down and I go right to 12. Perfect. I let go, my left click, and hit my enter. There you go. So now all I've said is that I've got just about $1,100, not quite, $1,094. It's due in the first year, and after the first year there'll still be $2,506 left on my loan, but my total liabilities are still $3,600. So nothing down here in my total changed, or my equity, or my total liabilities and net worth didn't change. Okay, I just simply moved part of this to my current. Okay, and I did it very simply by just showing the first 12 principal payments from that loan amortization worksheet. So that's it. You know, that's the first 2 statements, your startup and your opening day balance sheet, and also a quick lesson on the loan amortization. That loan amortization is cool, by the way. You might want to keep that for your records. You can figure out what your next house payment's going to be or something if you want to. So with that, I'm going to sign off and let you guys get started on that. And thanks, and we'll talk to you next week.